What is shaken? Mark Cordone, Golden Mike Podcast. I hope you're well. If y'all haven't met me yet, I help people disrupt the status quo on big stages like TEDx, podcasts, digital courses, and maybe even modeling in books. We're going to talk about all of that today. I have a really, really cool person on the show. We talked maybe about 8 weeks ago, I think. And boy, did we blow the top off of that conversation. Like, we went right for the jugular. South Asian, physician, growing up, wanted to be a model, and I think it's about to happen. Prianka Naik, how are you, Doctor? Dr. Prianka Naik, how are you today, my friend?
I am really great. Love the energy and really excited to be here.
And no pressure, but the 2 times we talked before this, we went right into flow. So I don't think that having this being recorded is going to change any of that. But no pressure. That's why we got our producer Manny here, to make it sound as good as the last conversation we've had. All right.
Delighted.
South Asian parents. Let's get right into it. South Asian parents, you were born in the United States. Talk about what that sort of that story was like as you were growing up with South Asian parents. Were they also like super like executive or physicians or anything like that?
Yes.
Oh, you had the super Asian family.
Yes. Yes. Both my parents are doctors. And of course, I idolized that. I looked up to that. My mom, especially, she's a power woman, had her own practice, still is work. Both of them still work. Yeah. We grew up in a small town where like my mom was essentially like a mini celebrity, kind of funny. So that, that was but remember, when we're kids, that's what we know is normal. So that was normal for me. And, I started talking about Harvard when I was in kindergarten. There was a tremendous, I know. Yeah, I don't know what to say. There was just like a tremendous amount of pressure on me starting from a really young age. And at some point, I feel like I burned out in early high school, which was like the wrong time to burn out, but I did. And then, I got into a good enough college, but WashU in St. Louis, it's a great school, but it wasn't Ivy League. So that was like a whole thing throughout my 20s that was like really problematic.
Oh, that you didn't go to an Ivy League.
Yeah, like really embarrassing for my mom to have to tell people at Indian parties, like, because everyone's like, "What are you doing? Where is your daughter going?" Like, what do you care? You don't know me. Do you even know my name? Like, what do you care where I'm going to college? Like, I don't understand. People have this fascination, and it's a cultural thing. It's not just Asian and South Asian. I mean, there's so many cultures where this is the case, but people are perseverating on other people's stuff when really looking inwards, looking at ourselves, that's the hardest thing, right? So it's just easy to gossip and be like, what is that person's child doing, right?
Completely. You know what's hilarious? We didn't talk about this too much, but both of my parents were physicians as well. And
God.
right? And so I think it might have been pre-K that they were telling me to go to Harvard.
Yeah.
But as far as I can remember, so they're both internists, right? So as far as I can remember, I would go with Dad on his rounds, right, on the different floors of the hospital, and I remember every single nurse that would come in and say, "Oh my God, your son looks just like you. Are you gonna be a doctor like your mom and dad?" Right? And here I am, like this little kid, not really knowing or understanding things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember multiple times, like, Dad would be like, "Yes, he is going to be like mom and dad." And so here we are, right? Here we are, like, starting being like, I guess success is what everybody believes me to be. And I'm just a kid, like, not wanting to grow up. And when I grow up, I'm going to fall in line. I'm going to be a doctor just like them. I'm going to take over the practice. I'm going to go to Harvard. And by the way, you said WashU, Emory University. So we look up to you guys.
Listen, I got into Emory. I visited. I almost went there. So I know. I feel like we were on the same track. Yeah. That's really funny.
Emory is like Little India. If you didn't see, I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, I didn't know that.
I was on a Bhangra troupe. Like,
brutal.
They needed somebody to throw around, and they recruited me to a Bhangra troupe. Okay, awesome. So Bhangra aside.
So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot about appearances, I think, and
Yes.
also perseverated what people thought, the facade, maintaining that. I really lived into that for a very, very long time. And it wasn't really until I was able to distance myself from the facade and really live in alignment with what I wanted to do without worrying about other people's opinions. Then I really found things to start really falling into place, though that was much harder.
Yeah, yeah. Now, did you grow up kind of like, do not want to be a doctor? Or did you grow up being like, yeah, I'm going to be like mom and dad. I'm going to move forward with that?
I think the problem was I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so then I just defaulted to do that. And I thought it
Hmm.
was I had great examples, so I thought it was a wonderful profession. I really wanted to make the world a better place, so it seemed. And I could prove to everyone how smart I was because I really wanted to do that.
Did you? Did you prove how smart you are?
I did. I think people are just like, damn, you're a doctor? That's awesome. And I'm like,
Sure.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
best part. I told you this in our conversation before. The best part of being a doctor is being able to tell people you are one.
And then everything else fucking sucks. Okay. So you go to med school, right? I'm taking it that you went into WashU pre-med, right?
Pre-med, which was
What was
like
the major?
so rough. I actually did international studies just to have like a backup plan.
Okay. What was the backup? Was it like
I had no backup. It was just in case.
okay, just in case you needed to regroup. So I'm guessing it was a science. Oh no, no. So you were pre-med with
It was
an
pre-med. I
international.
took all of the, prereqs and then, but they said like at that time, medical school admissions were 50%,
Mhm.
science,
Yeah.
50% non-science. So they said all
Yeah.
good. I said, perfect. I don't want to do any more science than I'm already
Nice,
doing.
nice. How
So
was
I did
Orgo? How
that.
did you do? How did you do?
Oh my God, I did so badly that I took a summer. So I dropped Orgo at WashU. I did it at UB, University of Buffalo. And I was number one in that class because if you put me in like a mediocre environment, no offense to anyone who went to UB, but
That's a fact.
then I can really shine. Like,
Yeah, completely.
but put
That
me
was
amidst all these other, smart people, then I'm freaking out, not doing
that
well.
that was the one that broke my back. Like Orgo, 8 o'clock in the morning, Tinker Toys. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So here you are in med school, and throughout med school, are you still like, there's other things that I want to explore? Or was
Not
this the
yet.
point? Okay,
No, no. I got into medical school and that was the big moment. That was like, all right, my family really accepts me. Like my mom and dad are not going to give me shit anymore. And like I made it. I made it. Like I made it. And so and I went to Tulane actually in New Orleans, which was the most fun. So I had the best med school experience. I was having a good time, made lots of friends, like really happy. Studied, but I didn't drive myself crazy with the studying. Like I studied enough, but I didn't pressurize myself as much as I had like prior to. But I also at that point was also burned out on like trying to get into medical school. So like it was just like always just push, push, push. Anyway, but it wasn't until like probably several months into my residency when I saw what it was really like. I just knew right away that like
was
this
that something you brought
I'm
up?
not doing this forever. What's
Did
that?
you bring that up with your family at any point?
Yeah, I told them, but they understand because they know like the state of medicine in this country is just kind of on the downhill.
It is, yeah. It was funny because when I told them, they would tell everybody that it was on the downhill, but they put so much pressure on me to become a
Yeah.
doctor.
Well,
That
it's
comparison trap
prestigious.
amongst Filipinos is real. It's real.
It's prestige.
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. It's hard when their identity is based on your success. I just, right?
Well, correct. And I think part of it, like I believe that the culture is mildly narcissistic where the identity of the parents like bleeds into their child and excuse me, no, like we are separate people from our parents as are like our children are separate people from us. Like
Completely.
we're not all one. Our
Yeah.
problems aren't all the same. Like there is a delineation.
Do you feel like there's a culture clash there? Because like I felt like the United States had a culture of following your dream, doing your thing. And in fact, when I was working at a university, when the students would come in, I would advise them based on like American standards, right? You got to do your thing. You got to follow your heart. You got to do this. And then here, my upbringing was a collective. Like you're doing this for the family. You're doing this, because the family is the singular piece, not the individual, right? Did you ever go between those things, like a culture clash, or did you just think to yourself like, no, the way I'm gonna go is putting me first?
I didn't think that until much later. So I was just really conditioned. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At a very young age, I knew 100% I had to go to graduate school. That was made very clear to me. Like, first, you have to go to an Ivy League, college. But after that, you must go to grad school. And then it was basically like, we don't care what you do. Get your PhD, get your MBA, get something, but you're not
Your
stopping
terminal
at
degree.
college. And, they meant well. That was actually, I mean, all the advice, the problem with parental advice is it's outdated. So our advice to our children is also going to be obsolete. So there's no point in even, like, we don't know the jobs are going to be out there with AI and all this other, the
Yeah.
technological
Yeah.
advances, right? So
Is this gonna be in your book? By the way, everybody, we were talking like 5 minutes before we started rolling, and we were talking about her book, so that's why this is coming up right now. This is like sweet, juicy stuff right now, homie. Like, I love it.
I know. Well, yeah.
Right?
So that was a must. So I just kind of followed it as if that was it. Like there were times when I did things that were against the cultural grain and my parents didn't approve of, but the backlash of that was so severe that it straightened me out to stay on track because I did not want the aftermath of like veering off course would have been like catastrophic.
Like, what would have been the aftermath?
God, I mean, just like tantrums and freaking out and drama. Like, it's like a cultural thing. Like, it's like a soap opera over like regular stuff. You know what I mean?
I completely know what you mean. I remember the night that I told my parents the fish that was on the table ended up against the wall.
Yes.
So, like, right? And I
Yeah.
didn't realize that that's something that's very real. Like the grease spot is still there on the wall. I think that we hung a photo up on there, but it's behind there. That grease spot is still there. And I remember coming back, like I'd see the grease spot and how much it affected my family, and I remember feeling shame and guilt around it. And that's almost like a codependent thing, right? Like, so okay,
That we're
here
all
we are.
together. Like where it what did an old therapist of mine say? Enmeshment. It's like where one person doesn't like ends and begins. You don't know like what's
Oh my
what
God,
when
that
there's a
is.
crisis because everybody's just so
You just schooled me, Naik. That is so good. That is so good. I'm gonna blog about that.
yeah,
But
it's
before I
really
blog,
unhealthy.
yeah, you are. Did you feel that enmeshment?
Yeah, of course. Oh my God. It was like all for one for all. Like, I don't know. Like, even with stuff like one of my parents, I won't name which one, but had like a hair loss issue. And like, it had to be like, we all had to freak out about it. Like, let's look up the supplements. Let's like it was a huge, big problem. Like the
Yeah,
world was coming to an end.
the
And then when
outer
I have
appearance and the inner world.
issues as an adult, I realize I'm like, oh my God, normal problems were just made to be these catastrophes that we all have
Catastrophes,
to
right?
solve together.
It
Like
gets all
that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
normal.
It's normal, is it, homie? Okay, so here we are. We're in graduate school, we're in medical school. You're having a good old time. You're doing what it takes to get by. You're socializing. Um, and keep me walking through this because here you are. Your childhood aspiration was to be a model, right? And here you are.
I mean, early on.
So you gave you gave up on it, or
Yeah, like when I was in the single digits, that's something I loved fashion. Like I was into fashion. I was, kind of was like modeling would be cool, fashion, maybe a fashion designer, anything fashion. I was really into that. And I like Barbies, but I never played pretend with them. It was just for the clothes. Or like the paper dolls. I loved the clothing and I would, or even like I had a sketchbook and I would do sketches sometimes in my sketchbook of fashion stuff in high school, but that was just like there was no way because it was an unstable career, which,
got it, got it. Are your family the type that if you did make it, they'd tell all their friends like?
of course, of course.
yeah. Oh yeah. I remember when I was in the band, they hated it. But once we started to go on a tour, and then there was a little like negotiation with a record company, they were just like, he's doing so well. He's on a
Right.
tour.
Yeah.
And then I remember when I started working at Emory, they would go and tell everybody that, like, so I worked in multicultural programs and social justice stuff, and I remember them being like, he's a professor at Emory.
Oh my God.
So yeah. Okay, so see, we scrapped. We Manny, you're gonna edit this. I know you're gonna put it in the timeline, but like we scrapped, meaning you, the modeling stuff. It
Yeah.
wasn't gonna fly. You are now in grad school. You're pushing through it. Tell me more about the story here.
Yeah, so then I'm thinking, oh, what should I do for my specialty? And at that point, I didn't know, nothing was really landing. And I thought, well, maybe psychiatry, because I've always like been really interested in people, how they think, how they function, all that. And then I thought, oh, psychiatry is not like a legit, that's not a legit specialty to report to my parents. And I was like, ah, that's out. So I threw that out, which I really regret. That would have been better. I've looked into it since then, and it would be an additional 4 years of training, and I don't think so with that one. I'm not doing that. I already have enough PTSD from, like, people be like, "Oh, we're going to this thing to do some learning," and I'm like, "Why would you do that?" Like, I mean, I will learn things I'm interested in, but if it requires like studying or sitting for a class, like, I have so much trauma from the past. Like, I've been through that. Like, how many hours, God only knows. Like,
Hmm.
I do not want to do that anymore. Anyway, so I'm not doing that. So I land on internal medicine. I'm like, all right, well, I could always specialize later, whatever. There are options. I do that. And then I was like, well, I'll do allergy. Allergy is a good lifestyle. And meanwhile, I really didn't even care. And I was never good at research or into it. I did not match allergy. Maybe I applied late. I don't know what I did.
Hmm.
There was one spot for me actually in California that I could have gotten. And my boyfriend at the time, who I ended up marrying, was like, no, don't go all the way out there. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll stay, which is fine because we all have a journey. And, we're meant to be where we're meant to be. And I'm not a West Coast person, so all fine.
Hmm.
So I end up doing internal medicine. I get this pretty killer job where I still am, where it's very flexible. I learn a lot from my mentor there. I'm doing well financially. I'm working like a
Yeah.
maniac. All is well.
Family's proud of you.
I feel empowered because I'm like, yeah, I'm making money, like sweet. But meanwhile, I'm just like miserable with the
Oh.
calls. I'm on call. You work like 11 days straight when you're on call. And this was back in the old days. Now the way they have it, the calls aren't bad anymore. But
Did you
back
have kids
then,
at this point?
not no kids yet.
Okay.
And then, but I'm like crying like on the Monday after the call in my car, like on my own, not telling anyone, like having a nervous breakdown because I was like sleep deprived and all
Priyanka,
this stuff. So many like signals from my body that were just like, this is not. Stop doing this.
your body was full on rejecting it.
Yes. Then fast forward, my son is born. I'm on maternity leave. I want so badly to be back at work. I'm not a housewife. I can't do that. I'm not into
Even with
that.
all the crying about work.
I wanted to be, I needed to have a purpose. I needed to be productive. So
Got it.
I hadn't gotten into coaching yet, but okay, so I go back to work and then that's when things start changing. So I'm having horrible anxiety. I'm not sleeping. I'm doing the breastfeeding at night, all this stuff, pumping at night, whatever. It was terrible for me. A friend, it was getting so bad that I started thinking, oh, I'm not gonna be able to work anymore. Like this anxiety is so terrible.
So
And
you
but
had
at the
like postpartum issues.
Yeah, I think I had postpartum anxiety that was never diagnosed. But once I started, so a friend of mine said, stop pumping at night, forget about the breastfeeding. It doesn't matter, like all will be well. And I stopped. And then finally I started getting myself back to normal.
How
But
long was
even
that? How long did that take?
not very long. It was
Got it.
probably like a few days to a week once I started sleeping. It
Wow.
was like
Yeah.
night and day. I just needed sleep because I hadn't slept in, I think like 6, 7 months because the last, or 9 months because the
Wow.
last trimester I hadn't slept, and then those 6 months. So it was too many months of not sleep.
It was a
I
lot of
mean, I
milk.
understand why these women, some of them get psychotic. I mean, you don't sleep.
I'm saying, man, that's
It's
the
not
number
good for
one way
your
to get
brain.
neurotic. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you started
So
getting
I go
sleep.
through all that, and then I'm realizing, all right, like, so being a mother is what changed everything for me. It changed my whole life for the better, of course, but also just changed me, how I saw my parents, how I saw my purpose, how I realized that my behavior, my attitude, my if I felt anxious, whatever it is, my mental health, all of that was going to have an impact on this other person who, by the way,
Mm.
did not ask to be here. Our children have not asked to be here per se. I mean, yeah, maybe their little spirits choose us as parents,
Look at you
but
getting all woo on
I
me.
know.
I love it.
But really we choose to have them. So now it's our responsibility to do the very best we can. And hopefully that best is good enough, because I look back at some of my parents' stuff and I'm like, yeah, I know you did your best, but like that's not okay for me.
Yeah. What was it okay for you when you went? Because you said it changed the perception of how you see your parents. Like, in retrospect, after you became a parent yourself, did that change the way that you look at, or in what ways did it change how you looked at them?
Yeah, so I'm sure the same goes for you. I know in my family we still are, but we're under the microscope. Like it's like, you know, this is like another Indian. In fact, there was an Indian girl in my community who wants to be a doctor. I told her don't do it, but we were talking about Indian stuff, and she's like, yeah, they comment on. I don't like going to India because they comment on me like way too much. I go, oh yeah. I go, with whether you put on weight, you're too thin. Eat this, eat that. I said my aunt pointed out I had a huge pimple on my forehead when I was 19 in front of like 20 people. She's like, in Marathi, she was like, what happened here? And it's like, it's obviously a pimple. Like, why are you
Brutal.
calling me out on my pimple?
I
You
love
know
it.
what it is. Why aren't we drawing attention to it? Like,
Homie, we are cut from the same cloth. I just saw an uncle come here. He's going to stay with us for a little bit.
oh,
And right when he walked
my
in,
condolences.
oh yeah, yeah, thanks. Right when I went in for a hug, I hadn't seen him in like 15 years. I went in for a hug because he can't see very far. So I came in, he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "You're so big. You've gotten fat." And I was like, "Wow,
Yeah,
I just made your bed, homie."
I know. It's like it's brutal, and they're never satisfied. You're either too fat or too thin, and then like when you're too thin, you now it's like, oh, you're too thin, you look old. Like it's I mean, it's never ending. So anyway,
It's never ending, yes.
it's
So
and
here
and
you
of course
are.
imagine what kind of inner voice do you have when that's what you hear growing up? You think it's a
Oh,
kind voice? It's not.
I gave a TEDx on that. Inner talk for people of color and what that actually looks like. Oh, I love it. So, we've got
So
the
with all
baby.
the scrutiny, right? I That's when I started realizing I'm like, damn, I would never. I'm like, not only would I not say something like this to my child, but I'm like, I wouldn't even think it. Like it would not even come to my like I feel like they had their own trauma. It's all generational trauma passed down. Okay, we can
Yep.
fine. We understand that. Okay. So I say it with that in the background. However, the lens with which I see my children, it is so different. Like I just have these like rose colored loving lenses, and when I look at them I'm like, oh my god, like you are the best looking, like most amazing, like I just think,
Wow.
you make my world better. And even like every day I'm like, I'm grateful for you, and I'm just so grateful you're here, and you guys enrich my life and all this stuff. I mean, it's so different, but that's really genuinely how I feel. So the criticism, it's just not there. Like I
Yeah.
can't not can't, but I it's just not my go-to is to criticize my kids. I mean, they're young, but still.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when my little one was on the way, well, he's not little anymore. He's almost as tall as I am. But when he was on the way, I went to my therapist and I constantly asked him, like, what do I need to do to be the best parent out there? I want to be the perfect parent. And he was like, you'll drive your kid crazy if you want to be the perfect parent. Just show up. And I know I'm only speaking for me and I do the opposite of what my parents, or I do the opposite of what I think they did to me. I wouldn't go back and change any of that, but like, I'm sure that I have I know that I have some unconscious things that come up. But also at the same time, I remember when my dad was in a major decline and, my son would come and hang out with them, dad repeating like, so you're going to be a doctor, right? You're going to be, and I'm like, Dad, no, it's not going to go like that. This is not going to go like that. This stops with me. But I don't know if you went through any of those things. Cause like I did get to see some really nurturing things that my parents, my son's grandparents did. And I get to see the nurturing things that I see them doing with my nephews as well. And becoming a parent also changed that. Like allowed me to see that there is a nurturing side, and then there's a part of that that I don't want transferred to them. And that's what I'm hearing from you. Like it's sort of changed you in a little bit in terms of the way that you see your own parents, and then from what I'm hearing, it's almost like you're doing things counter to some things that you received growing up. Yeah,
Yes. So, I always try and I try to be balanced and not go
yeah,
completely the other way, because there are really wonderful things about South Asian culture. I mean, I think to a certain extent, the expectation of success and all that. I mean, how can I complain? I've got a roof over my head, a warm bed. Like, I don't have to worry
right.
about my job. Even medicine, we can trash it, but doctors will always have jobs. They need us out there for sick people. So,
Yeah, I don't think
yeah,
ChatGPT is gonna it's
right,
not gonna
right.
infiltrate your
Yeah.
profession.
So, there is that part that I'm grateful for. So I try to, I want my kids to just be happy. I'm not going to push them to do any which thing for their career.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I think sometimes when kids are used to a certain way of life,
Yeah,
they have to maintain that. So
yeah.
what does that look like? I don't know yet. My kids are really small, but basically I have the expectation in my mind, but I never verbalize it.
That's a lot of discipline right there.
I don't say anything. I don't say anything about anything.
Is
And
there part that
because they're clever and they kind of impress me on their own, so then why would I have to push? Like, if they're already performing, what is the point? Like, why did my mom
Mm,
pressurize me so much? Like, I was doing great. Like, she didn't have to say anything.
yeah, yeah. Di is their father is your partner South Asian as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's a doctor too. So so yeah, I mean, part of that is problematic in the sense that, they might want to be doctors, and it's like, wait, whoa, whoa,
Continuing the
whoa.
cycle.
I know. It's the same. I think people love becoming doctors. It's like the ultimate.
I love it. I absolutely
You
love
made
it.
it.
How old are your kids, by the way?
My son is 6 and my daughter's 3.
Okay, so they're about to get to that phase in the next couple of years. Yeah. Okay, I want to go here because you brought it up a couple times, like your way of approaching life. Because I do know that mindfulness is a big deal to you. Making your dreams happen is a big deal to you. But you've also like kind of opened the door, and there's woo there. And by
Yeah.
the way, that's not a negative thing.
Oh
That's
no.
something. Yeah, that's something that I've been fortunate to like lean into the last couple of years. What does it look like to find the truth, or what does it look like to see the unseen? Right? Have you always had that kind of mindset when it comes to you approaching the world, or was there a particular incident or a series of incidents that had you kind of open up to a different way to take in the world?
This is
Because
a
I think
great question. This is excellent.
that's
Okay.
why I prepare for
So
you.
from a young age, well, first of all, my mom's maiden name actually means family of God, and one of
Got it.
my great great relatives way back is a saint. So we've got like this spiritual lineage, if you will. And so from a young age, though, especially in high school, I was very intuitive, and I could always, like, my intuition specialized in just telling, like, who could I trust, who could I not? Like, right off the bat. Who's going to, like, stab you in the back, who's not going to? Always. And I remember at some point I was like, oh, don't be judgmental, like, just give him a chance. And then, of course, I always ended up being right. So that was when I started realizing, I'm like, oh, shoot, like, I'm really intuitive about people and, like, their nature. And then, of course, like, as you get older and there's so much noise from the outside world, and people say a lot of things, and a lot of people, including myself, I'll take it to heart and be like, oh yeah, like, let me not be judgmental, let me not do that. Well, those people nobody knows what they're talking about, so just do whatever you want. Who are we even listening to here? Just do what you think is right. Like, that's okay. Anyway, so I got away from it for a while. So I'm going to put that aside for 1 second and say that I had 3 years off between undergrad and medical school, and I didn't do very well in undergrad because I had poor self-esteem. I was just like, I I didn't know how to study. It was just a mess. Anyway, my
Mm.
application though to med school was terrible, and the counselor was like, you're not going to get in. And I'm like, well, you haven't met me. Like, I am going to do I'm going to do this. So that was the first time that I literally like mindset, manifest, whatever you want to call it. I was like,
Sounds
I
like
am,
you're
and this
standing
is
in your
before
power
I
too.
even knew what these things were. I was 22 years old and I'm like, I'm going to make this happen come hell or high water. Like I will do this. And against all odds, I'm going to get into medical school. Not just that I that was it. So I decided that I was never going to let go of it. And I did. I got into like 3 medical schools, US med schools, the MD schools, mind you. Like I did it, which is not easy.
Yeah.
And that was that. So that was the beginning of I can do anything I put my mind to, which I have my kids chant like every other day so that they too know that they can do that.
Are you an empath?
Yes.
Okay. Which probably makes you such a great doctor.
Yes.
The intuition and the empathy.
Yes, the intuition actually does come into play too with medical stuff. So then, you know, I kind of was away from it, but I was always into astrologers and psychics, and I would get my palm read when I went to India, like to visit my grandma. I was super into all that stuff, always have been. And I'm sure it's a part of your culture too. It's very cultural, like
Oh yeah, completely.
where they have your, you know, everything mapped out, all this stuff. So I would do that. And then I don't know what happened a couple years ago. I mean, I got into the coaching and mindset stuff, and then something just kind of led me to Gabby Bernstein, which is so random because I'm not like a big, you know, she's great, but I don't even follow her that much. I read a couple of her books. I started getting into the Abraham Hicks stuff, and then next thing you know, I'm like, oh, synchronicities. That's weird. This person came into my head, and then they called me or whatever. Like
Insanity.
Just all this crazy stuff, and I'm like, this is not a coincidence. Like, you know, that's it. And so that's been probably like 2 years in the making, and it just gets stronger and stronger and freakier and freakier.
About some of the freakier things that has happened.
Well,
I mean, those synchronicities are incredible.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I had a friend pass away about a little over a month ago, probably after we spoke. And I have felt her presence, and crazy things have happened. Like the lights are going on and off in my bathroom and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I have never, and I was always I was afraid of spirits, ghosts, whatever you want to call it. But then when it's my friend, not afraid. So then I've kind of opened myself up to that. And that's been really like bananas. So
right?
It's a whole
I can't think of
level.
a life without it, though. I can't think of a life without these sort of things. You know, it just makes things so vibrant and juicy.
Correct.
Like, to be able to
exactly. But that's us being awake versus people being asleep.
Oh my God, this is a whole other conversation. By the way, this is Mark and Prianka announcing our new podcast. If that's what you want to go into, go into people being asleep.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there are all these articles out there on what dying people have to say about their top regrets and all this stuff. And I have 0 regrets in my life. 0.
Yeah.
Like people will say, oh, you don't have any regrets? I'm like, no, actually, even the hardships I've been through, they all taught me something or brought me to where I needed to be. But that being said, those people are asleep. And what that means is just being in the daily grind, like the daily grind dread. Alarm goes off, womp, 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 and go to my job. I hate my job. Traffic sucks.
Robot.
Yeah, like it's like sleeping through life, not even seeing. Like I feel like there were years when I didn't see. Have you ever been driving and you notice like this beautiful tree or something, and you're like, oh my God, I never saw that tree before.
I never seen that before. Absolutely.
Even though I've gone on this route like 20 times or whatever.
Absolutely.
Just seeing, opening your eyes to the beauty of like all of it. Like it's all really beautiful. And I don't talk about this that much because I think people who are not on that vibe, they get like irritated. So I'm like, all right, I just usually am like happy go lucky and I'm going around being like, I'm happy.
You think that you're the only intuitive in the room right now? Like,
no, I know you're like
you
that.
You bleed woo-woo. Yeah.
Operating in the world though, you know, people are like, everybody's depressed. Like, womp womp, the world sucks. Like, you know, okay, that's fine. I mean, yeah, there are terrible things happening in this world. I don't disagree, but we don't have to focus on, like, keep that as our focus.
Agreed. I absolutely agreed. We need to talk even more, but people have been talking about the 3D to 5D split that's happening right now, and I full on believe it. And you're talking about it, you know, like
so folks tell me more about that because I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, look at this. Hey, are you picking up what I'm throwing down here? Are you digging the Joy Revolution podcast? If so, I invite you to subscribe on this platform. Now, if you want more, I have an online community called The Underground. It's free to sign up. In there, you'll find mini courses inspired by podcasts like this one. You get to connect with other community members. I'm in there. The link's in the description. Let's get back to the episode. Everyone gets to lean in and listen to this. So like the 3D world is more of the world of like the physical, what we have, the material things, and I full on believe that it's like a simulation, it's a video game and these sorts of things. And people are waking up to that, right? But there's some people, and I don't call it good or bad, but there's some people who want to choose to be in this 3D world. And that's what they have and that's what they want. But I think in moving to the 5D space, this is a space where souls thrive. This is a space where we can connect to some of the things that we, like with you and I, right? The 3D world is like, oh, we're friends. We're on a podcast right now. The 5D world is like looking at this thread that's coming out and hitting you on your heart. Ooh, look at that. Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Goosebumps, right?
Yeah.
Like it's leaning into those goosebumps.
Yeah.
It's understanding that unity is the place to be. It's understanding that energy centers are a big fucking deal. And so like the 5D world will be a world in which community is celebrated again. It's much more like an indigenous place where it's like,
yes,
we as community will take care of everything. We will be the teachers. We will like community gardens. I feel like that's the beginning of a 5D space. We're going to go to a place where you can say to the kids like, hey, go out, just come back before it's dark. That trust isn't there right now because it's so 3D,
right. Yes.
And so that 5D space is a place of honoring the souls. It's a place of honoring the unseen right now. It's a place of honoring the woo. And I think a lot of people think that, oh, if we go to 5D, it's all about spirituality. Yes. And we also get to enjoy the material parts as well. Okay, I'm going way off.
No, I love that.
And yeah, I think people have it like, I wouldn't say I think people have it wrong. We're just evolving to that space. And
people need to zoom out more. I think we're way too hopped up on the day to day. Oh, my bank account dipped. All right, you'll make it up in like a year. What is the big deal? Or 2 years or oh, my information's out there all. You know what I say to people? I'm
yes.
like, we're gonna die anyway. Who cares? We're gonna be dead.
Right.
And then our information won't matter.
It won't matter.
Who cares?
Right?
Why are we stressing out about all this like nonsense? Like, what is the point of this?
Yeah. Yeah. And so like the 3D world, that's part of this, the materialism, but also the us versus them mentality. Also I want to take everything that I have. I don't want to let go of things. It doesn't have the same issues in the 5D space, And since you and I are going to talk more, we'll go into like aliens, Anunnaki. Like I full on believe that like South Asia, like
we need to have I'll tell you later, but my law of attraction coach Taylor on this podcast. She will blow your mind with
we are full on calling this together. We're calling this in right now.
Yes.
But I do believe that also things like who's the Indian god, like Ganesh, or like what's the one with multiple?
Yes. The elephant god?
Yes.
Yes.
And one of the things that I think about is maybe those weren't fictional things. Maybe those things were people, high energy people from out of this world, even that came in to edify us, to show us like how to get out of where we're at.
Perhaps.
Right?
Yeah.
So like when people describe them, they were like these people with animal heads and multiple arms and all this stuff. And, I don't know, fire or whatever, but like they came from the heavens down. Maybe they were extraterrestrials showing us like this is a great way to lead our lives in the 5D. But so anyways, we're going to have your person in for the first episode. We will continue to talk about this, my friend. Look how lit up you and I are right now. Talk about this with your coaching, right? I want to know how you got into coaching, and the coaching that you're doing is very powerful. Like you are talking about self-love, which is a 5D. It's a 5D way of coaching people. You are talking about making dreams come true. Look how lit up we are. You're talking about making dreams come true. We already had you going through med school. You're a doctor. Were you already coaching as well before your kids came in?
No, that's what really kind of put me over the edge. So I consulted with a physician who was a career coach. That's right. And we we deduced that life coaching would be good for me. So I started a certification program right around the time my son was born because I was going through all these changes and I wanted to, like, I started making all these lifestyle modifications like self-care and exercise and all this stuff. And, but then I realized this work is deeper than this. So I did the certification, and then my passion was really helping moms enjoy their lives and not be burned out and really be present and cultivate peace. And I've been doing that for a while. I mainly coach physicians. And then as I've been doing more of the manifestation stuff and kind of exploring in my own journey, I thought, well, you know what would be more fun? Because I know people are like, oh, be serious and like come on to earth. I am on earth. Like, I am serious. I'm a motherfucking doctor. Like, how much more serious can I get? Can I get more serious than that? Like, that
You
is
can't
serious.
screw with me anymore. I'm a doctor.
I'm just saying, but I deal with, people's lives. That is serious. I'm
It's very serious. Yeah.
I am serious, which is why I think, like, I guess it's the Gemini. It's like the serious physician, and then the twin is the opposite.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the fun. So I'm like, what would be more fun would be to coach people on really manifesting their dreams, like making their dreams come true, because we've all done it, like time and time again. I have done it so many times in my life. It's just time you can pick a new dream and let's go for it. And just having someone to help you along to do that, I think would be great. Like, people will see how much they make happen.
Yeah. Yeah. What? Okay. What got you into wanting to even start the coaching in period?
Yes. So it was really because the work that I did to be more balanced, more stable, more peaceful, all these things for my son, that was what made me realize, I was like, there's a complete method to this. And I came up with my own methods. I have like a 5-6 module program to walk people through, because it really is very systematic. Like, if you follow certain steps, then you really can, for the most part, cultivate ease, peace, flow, decrease your anxiety, and like live a much, much happier life with much less stress and burnout.
Okay. And this is on your stress cleanse? And this
Yeah.
is your stress cleanse website. It's on that. Okay. Stresscleanse.com.
Stress cleanse, stress.
Okay, you gotta put the fucking doctor and everything in there. Okay,
Obviously.
Exactly right. You earned it. So for your son, right? And then now you're talking about an element of fun.
Yeah, because I think once I got that kind of under control, I was like, all right, well, this isn't really fun anymore. Like, I do practice mindfulness, I do meditate, I do all these things, I do practice all the same things that I've previously coached. But now I'm like, it's time for something more lighthearted, because I think I'm all just deal with so much serious stuff all the time, and the womp womp. And so I really just would rather infuse kind of joy. That lights me up a lot more. Like, helping people make their dreams come true is so much better. It's more fun.
Yeah.
And that will get you out of the burnout anyway.
Right there you are, right there. Talk about some of the dreams that people have come to you about, and like what are some of the things that you work through with them, and what have been some of the accomplishments?
So most of my clients come to me with like very easy to do goals, but it's usually stuff like, I want to do this at my job, and I want more money at my job, and I want this and I want that. And then literally it's just a little bit of mindset work and asking, and then voila, like magic, you get exactly what you ask for.
Why don't we ask? You're making me laugh.
Like,
why don't we ask?
It's actually that easy. It's just, and people, it's funny. I was telling you earlier, I had asked for a raise, and I had an interesting response in return, and I was like, ooh, like maybe me and my whole attitude of like, just ask and you shall receive. And actually, look, I have a Post-it literally on my.
My God. If y'all are just hearing hearing this, she's holding up a freaking Post-it note in front of me. But you know what? Like,
so yeah. So originally I'm like, I'm like, maybe I'm taking it too far with my manifestation, ask and you shall receive and all this stuff. And the next thing you know, voila, I got my raise. Yeah. So that's it. It's that simple.
It is that simple. And I've been thinking about the majority of my life being afraid to ask. right? And then there's that other part that you're talking about receiving. Like after, when someone gives something to me, I've had a hard time receiving that too. Like I feel like those, for me, an I statement, receiving is so hard. Like even compliments, like Mark, you're doing so well, and I'm just like, oh no, I'm not. And literally, I could go back to my house and being like, oh, they were just saying that. They're just saying that. They don't mean that. Then the inner voice takes over, right? Like they're just saying that because your esteem is so low, and they just didn't want to shatter me, you know. And it sounds like a lot of the people who come in to work with you are very similar to me. Like not, they can't receive and they can't ask because I guess they're terrified of the answer.
Well, we're conditioned, like we have to be humble, which is fine because there's a difference. You can still receive a compliment nicely, and that doesn't mean that you're a jerk. You know what I mean? Like you could, but it takes a lot of work to get to a point where you can actually receive nice things. Like it was hard for me for a long time, and I would dismiss compliments, and I've done a lot of work on myself to learn to love myself, where now I receive. Someone had said to me, I was on at this conference, and they complimented me on my outfit, and I said, oh, thank you so much, I really appreciate it. And they were taken aback by my receiving it so well. Like they were kind of looked at me like, geez, you have an ego, like. So yeah, and in my head I'm like, geez, this is why like people feel like they can't receive. So I actually said, honestly, it's been a lot of work in therapy to get me to a point where I could receive a compliment like that. Like to
completely.
Which I didn't have to explain myself, and in retrospect I wish I hadn't, but then they were all like, ha ha ha, okay.
Why did you say it in the first place? For me to not receive that?
Yeah, exactly. And then I felt the need to stand up for myself, which I regret now, but whatever.
For anyone who's listening and has a hard time, let's just use the receiving piece, because the rest of you can go to the damn course and get it yourselves. But when it comes to like working with somebody and like helping them to receive, like what is someone who's listening right now, how can you, or what do you have to say to someone who's like, oh God, I don't know how to receive it all? Like what would be some of the first steps or one step?
Yeah. So when you get a compliment, just stop yourself from poo-pooing it. Like, cause you're going to want to open your mouth and be like, nah, I didn't, or nah, or oh, well. So that's step one. But the deeper work really is really practicing loving yourself and faking it till you make it, because eventually you will. And people ask me, well, how do I do that? And I think the easiest way to do that is really think about somebody that you love, be it your parent or a relative or your child or your partner or spouse, somebody that you purely, truly love unconditionally, and then take that lens and flip it onto yourself.
Ooh, that's hard.
Yeah. Well, one exercise you can do, which is, I talked about this on my own podcast, you can look in the mirror and say to yourself, I love you. And it is the most awkward thing ever. It will give you the icks. But if you practice it and make yourself do it enough, you'll start kind of like, you can look yourself in the eye, and it is the scariest thing. It's terrifying.
Yeah. I completely agree. If I were to do this at the end of the day, I'd probably be giggling, right? And there's a science to this too. I don't know the exact mechanism of using mirror work, but it's the foundation of new decision therapy, which is a big part of sort of the mirror work that folks do.
Well, it's like the high five habit that Mel Robbins has. You look in the mirror and you give yourself a high five.
I can totally do that. I can totally do that.
You could do that as the start. But then if you really want to get into the love stuff, you got to be like, I love you, and say it out loud and look in the mirror and look at yourself.
What are you laughing about?
Well, because it's really daunting. It's like I remember the first couple, I don't do it every day because I don't really need to do it anymore. But when I first tried to do it, I was like, oh my God, and I think I was really freaked out.
How long did it take for you to get comfortable with that and see sort of the power in the mirror high fives?
Not long. It took like a week. It took me a week probably. Yeah.
Everything takes you a week.
Yeah, it doesn't take long. I mean, well, because it's all building off like the stuff from before.
Yeah. And some of the most powerful techniques to generate self-love do start out by sounding a little corny. I remember the first time I heard of gratitude journaling. I'm like, oh God, you know. And at some point, like research had found that it's if you do something like that for 6 to 8 weeks of writing down the three things you're grateful for every single day, it has the impact of a mild antidepressant.
I'm sure.
Yeah, right. So there's so much stuff going on with some of these practices that feel corny. Priyanka, why is it that we are so living in a society where there isn't a lot of self love?
I think our parents grew up with like a critical lens on them, and then I don't think, love themselves. And that's the example that we grew up with. So then we internalize that, but then also I think I don't want to speak for like you and your family, but I will say for me, I felt like love was really conditional, that
Mm,
it was based on my accolades and
yeah.
my accomplishments, and that is really dysfunctional. Like that's not how parental love is supposed to be. Not that my parents did not unconditionally love me. They do unconditionally love me,
But
but
that's what they knew.
that was not my perception. When that's how you're growing up, how are you going to know how to love yourself? I mean, we all actually love ourselves as babies love themselves. They'll be in the mirror and they're all like, you know, like even at like 1 month old, they're fascinated with themselves. They'll be looking and they're just like, it's the purest form. Like when you look at babies and toddlers, that is the purest form of a human being. And you can see how humans naturally are before all this other stuff kind of gets in there.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And the reason why I brought that up was because earlier on in this podcast, you were talking about generational trauma, and it seems like there's one of the things that's happening is there's trauma that's passed down and passed down and passed down, and that's just the way it is, and that becomes the invisible tapestry of it just is the way it is. I also don't think that we don't have the greatest of things because our bodies were and you know this better than I do, but like our bodies and maybe our brains are wired to survive, not to full on be like kumbaya, because like we were run from dinosaurs
Right.
couple, and so then there's that, and I know that also when it comes to the way that we see the world based on that, like I guess the reptilian part of the brain, in order like we for every 10 negative things we see, we usually will see one positive thing,
Or
right? And that's
negativity bias, yeah, because
yeah.
you're basically scanning the environment for threats, and then you pick up the threat. Which now, because for the most part, we're not in the forest scavenging and looking out for animal threats, right? It could be other things that stick with us. It's
Yeah.
correct.
And so when you were talking about driving to work or going from one part of town to another, and there's a tree you've never seen before, I feel like that, like part of what you do is to help people see that tree. And if the tree were to symbolize something positive, here you are finding all these things that are positive and realizing that this world isn't so like fucked up, and traumatized.
Exactly. Well, and the love and the connection is right there, especially if you have, and this is why I think I work with moms, but especially if you've got children. I mean, there's so much beauty and fascination. And yeah, not every day is perfect. You got to get them to brush their teeth, whatever, get to bed on time, whatever it is, do their homework. None of that's glamorous, right? But at the same time, a simple hug with my kids, I mean, I just sit there and I'm like, this is it. Like, this is the stuff. Like, this is life right
Mm.
here, right now. Like, this is it. This is the moment. Like, I just get to be here, be present, and soak it in instead of thinking about the grocery list or whatever, all the day to day stuff that really actually doesn't matter.
Completely. And I feel like you exude this. Like here you are, you're you're brought up in a certain way. You achieve the things on that side. Most of the things on that side, the collective, you having certain expectations, and then here's a part of you that's like, yo, I earned it. That's the collective part. I'm gonna do shit that's fun. That
That's
feels
right.
like the personal part, right? So like you've got
Yes.
this collective and personal part. Do you feel on a daily basis that it's like, yo, I got this. I'm super grateful for it, and I got this. I'm at a
Yeah.
part of my life. Okay.
Yes. I mean, for sure. I definitely feel like I can create whatever I want to create. And as you do more of the, woo woo stuff, I noticed that whatever I perseverate on, talk about, I mean, I was complaining about someone in my family a couple weeks ago. I told like 5 different people with my outrage and like funny stories. And what did I do? I attracted like some terrible people. And like there were a couple terrible encounters I had that week. And I was like, I attracted this, I created this. Like, you
Oh,
know?
and
So
that's where you talk about what goes around comes around.
yeah, you create it. Whatever you're putting out there, it attracts.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I was telling my law of attraction coach, this was in May. I said to her, I go, no one's ever thrown me a surprise birthday party. And I said, but somebody will. Like, I'm gonna get one someday. You know what happened?
What
One
happened?
month
No,
later, a friend of mine threw me a surprise party for my birthday.
no
And
way.
and, and
That's
it was and
amazing.
not just a surprise party, it was like a dream. That's why life is like a dream. Like it was like a bridal shower. She had all this custom made stuff. It was insane. It was out of this world. And
Were you
so
actually surprised?
yes, she said she was like, come in, like I'll tell you what to wear. Put like makeup on. She was like, keep it simple. I want you to do a photo shoot for my skincare line. And I said, oh.
You got.
So and she was like, this is a paid shoot and la la la. And I said, all right, cool. So off I went. And then I brought a bag of shoes and I was like, I don't know which shoes you want me to wear. I have options. And she was like, just keep them in the bag, like, or keep them in your car for now and come this way. I was like, okay. And then a bunch of friends were there. And I thought, like, before it clicked in my brain that they were my friends, I thought they were the other models.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So you are talking about law of attraction, universal
Hmm.
laws, and stuff like that. What are people getting wrong?
Hmm.
Because it's not just asking for it.
So law of attraction and life coaching very similar. It's all about, and like Brooke Castillo talks about this in the life coach school, but essentially whatever you want to make happen, you have to step into that person today. So like if you want to be the executive of a company or whatever it is, you got to walk it, talk it, feel it. You got to feel that vibe. And so you could say, okay, law of attraction, but let's just put law of attraction aside, say, all right, that's not real. As you feel that powerful vibe, then you're making empowered decisions and leading yourself to that place slowly but surely, but maybe not even slowly. You know what I mean?
Hmm. So do you think this is about just the individual shifting like just a shift in the way that we approach the world, or is there literal laws, universal laws acting on us? Like because a big thing right
Yes,
now is
yes. Well,
quantum, the
it's all
quantum.
energy kind of transfer. You're putting off the energy, you're attracting it. Somebody's negative energy could come your way, but you don't have to absorb it. That's something I learned that I'm like, okay, it could just move through me, like just go in and out. Like it doesn't
That
have to
must have been
be.
such a big deal because you're an empath.
Yeah, so I don't have to absorb everything anymore. But yeah, for sure, there are external
Yeah.
forces. It's not just, but at the end of the day, like we get to decide how we want to live. We create the life we want to create, but also how we experience it. So we might as well just have a good time while we're here because we're all going to die anyway. So it's not
That's
that
right.
serious. Like I was at a pool and somebody came to hang out with my friends and she wasn't wearing a swimsuit and I said, all right, just come hang out at the pool with us, like what's the big deal? And she's like, I don't know, it'll look weird and all this stuff. And I'm just like, God, why are we so obsessed with posturing and looking weird? Like who cares? No one is looking. Like it's so American to posture because when you go to other countries, men are just like dancing with abandon. They're like, they're just like this. You know what I mean? They don't care. They're
Hope you
like
guys are
kissing the
watching the
cheek of
video.
like another boy. I know. They don't give a shit. They're dancing with abandon.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So that's the zeal for life, right? That's the fun that you're talking about,
You
right?
gotta just dance like nobody's watching. Like that's what I do in my bathroom all the time.
I love. Well, so what's
It's
the song? If
it's
you're,
a
you
vibe
probably don't
raiser.
even
It
have
doesn't
music.
matter. It could be anything.
It's
It's like raising the vibe.
completely. So, do you feel if you grow up in a place that is more depressed and angry, Do you become more depressed and angry than yourself, or is it something that is like, I don't know, like if you can outthink it, you'll be fine.
Depends on the person. It's so hard because we all have different personalities and backgrounds. But
Such a coach answer.
yeah. Well, I think it could go either way. I think you could definitely be immersed in that and then be depressed, but we also all have control over how we respond. And you can do the work to more therapy would be reflection of how you got here. And then coaching is more here, like how do I get from
Mm-hmm.
here to there?
Mm-hmm.
And then now in the future, which I like that focus better because I think it's great to understand why we operate the way we operate. That's really critical, not just in parenting, but in relationships. I think unless you realize how you were raised, there's no way you can make a relationship with a partner work because you
Got
need
it.
to know where you're coming from.
Got it. Absolutely. I'm going to ask you about the things that you currently are manifesting, but
Okay.
I want to bring something up.
Yes.
I have, so you say do what your heart desires because life is too precious not to, right? So you're saying
Absolutely.
you're going to die. You're going to,
Yeah.
it's right. But what if doing what your heart desires hurts other people?
What would that be though? How is it going to hurt other people? I'm curious of an example even.
Yeah. So like an I statement again. So my parents moving to the United States, super poor. They made it happen. They became MDs. They raised kids and they raised them in a way to, you know, to be successful from the doctor's standpoint. Then then I don't come in because I don't go and become a doctor. And by the way, I've gone through therapy about this shit too, right? So then right, so I'm asking for a friend. So then I would go join a band. I've got a master's degree and a whole hell of a lot of money invested in me becoming a doctor, and you have just shattered the family unit.
You
So
hurt
that
them. Okay. You're
yeah,
hurting them by doing what you want to do. Okay. Yeah. So, but you're not maliciously trying to hurt them. They are upset because of their own thing. And it's not your job to make them happy and appease
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Your job is to be happy yourself and set a good example for your children.
Mm. Are you guys hearing this? This might be the quote that I put in the sorry that Manny puts at the beginning of the web of our
It's their
podcast.
job.
So let's go here now. What are you currently manifesting?
Yeah. So I have been, I knew I wanted to leave medicine, not leave. I'd like to do medicine as my hobby. I think I said that. I do love, for any of my patients listening out there, I do love being a doctor so, so much.
She's
And,
lying, y'all. No, I'm just kidding.
but I don't want it to earn my living. Those are like I'd rather just do it for fun. Then it's fun.
Yes. Yes. Does fun for you mean freedom?
Yes.
Okay, talk about that.
I mean, so I think growing up in a helicopter home, I realized like I am allergic to structure,
Allergic to structure.
which is like, how my life was for so long. And so even in the practice that I joined straight out of residency, it was very flexible and you could obviously work has to be done within certain hours, but you could kind of round when you wanted to round. It wasn't that stringent. It's gotten a little bit more stringent as time has gone on with the external factors, but overall, you see patients at your own time and leisure and pace, which is great.
Got it.
So I like that. Like I've always kind of liked the flexibility and the freedom. I don't like being told what to do.
You're allergic to it, right?
I get very, yeah, I feel, and my reaction is like, I feel really suffocated.
Got it. Got it. It also seems like you're willing to pursue the modeling career.
Yeah.
Too.
So, I was feeling a little bit, I felt I needed to give myself space and continue to do the doctoring, and just allow other ideas to flow. So it came to my brain to be pursue modeling. And then it once again left because I was like, this is preposterous. You're 41 years old. Like, who does that? And you're not even that tall. Like, whatever. Like, how is this going to happen? Okay. So that
Can you
happened.
hold up that pink mug at some point?
It's the blue. Ask and you shall receive.
Exactly. I love it.
So that was my first thought. And then about 1 to 2 weeks later, I spoke to my coach and she literally on her own was like, have you ever thought of being a model? And I said,
No.
it's so, swear. I go, it is so funny that you say that. I said, because actually that was my childhood dream and it came to my brain 2 weeks ago and I pushed it out because it's ridiculous. And she was like, is it though? I don't think it's ridiculous. And I said, So fast forward, I went and I got a bunch of pictures done for like a portfolio. And I was talking to this woman who did my makeup, and she told me that, the modeling industry has changed a lot. And she goes, they really need brown models because they don't have them. Why, you may ask? Obviously, because parents don't let their kids do modeling. And she was like, she's like, it's not saturated. She was like, they're taking all ages, shapes, sizes, colors, whatever. She was like, you definitely will get in. And I'm like, yeah. And the best part is when you apply for these, I've only applied to 2 so far. So that's not very much. I'll apply to more, and I'm going to get fresh digitals done in a couple weeks. So once I get those, then I'll really like go balls to the wall applying, which is fine because it's summer. I take massive action, no worries. But
you do, yeah.
Of course. Sorry. What was the something funny I was going to say about that, but I lost it.
We're going to find it. We're going to find it and we're going to talk about it. Like what is your, like, when it comes to modeling, obviously there's a lot of different areas there. Are you talking about like
just commercial modeling? Like, a friend of mine who's 60, she was like, please walk a runway for me. And I go, oh my God, that is not what I'm thinking. I said, but okay, let's just see.
Can you do it now?
I would be happy to be in like a Target catalog or a Bowden catalog or like any of those, J. Crew or something. Like, I'm just looking to do commercial, like run of the mill. I could do mom clothes, like whatever. Like, my aspirations really actually aren't that great. What I do want to...
My aspirations aren't that great.
They're not like, I'm not shooting for something totally out there. What I really... Part of this though is to show women, like, listen, if a middle-aged doctor can do this in the middle of her life, like, you can do anything. Like, you can do whatever. Don't limit yourself.
Number one, early 40s is not middle age.
No, but not anymore. Yeah. But you know what I mean.
Okay, so here's your audition. There's a gigantic pink cup in front of you. I want you to sell that cup like you're in a photo.
I know. It's kind of hard. It's a little unruly, but
number one, if people are watching, look at how large. Absolutely. Now, I don't know if you've got like pajamas on underneath. I want to see you walk the runway too. Like,
I'm not doing that.
I'll do it with you.
I'm not. Sorry, I remember the funny thing I was saying. So they say on your application, don't put that you like fashion because that's not original. Like, you have to put something interesting and unique about you. And I'm thinking in my head, when I tell them I'm a physician, like that has to be unique.
Yeah,
like they cannot be getting that many.
Absolutely, like that would put you over the top. And then drinking, see, she's modeling drinking, guys. Oh my gosh. Okay, you've said it all. I don't know if I introduced you to Manny, but he's right here in the production booth next to me. Our producer, Manny. Yeah, and he's banging on the window right now, saying, "Oh, if she wants fun." Yeah, I hear you. Like, calm down. If she wants to have fun, it's time to embody that. So he has this test. Manny's got this test. I have to warn you, no one has ever passed this test. So, like, warn your parents if they're listening to this because you're about to fail big time. But would you be willing? Would you be willing to take a stab at Manny's little test for you? Would you be willing? Because he's saying it's fun.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm open.
You good?
I'm a little nervous.
You ready to go?
I'm open.
Okay. Cool. So, Mandy's going to ask you a question, and it's a fill in the blank about how you embody joy. And then just go. If it's one word, it's one word. If you want to go for like all these, like, if you want to go out there in the world and just ask or just and respond as long as you want, that's fine too. Mandy then grades you to see if he likes your answer or not, right? Okay. So here's the first one. Joy sound.
La da da dee da 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 da. La da da dee da da.
Manny, is "Be My Lover" the correct answer? Manny just ripped his shirt open and he's dancing the robot to "Be My Lover." 1 point 1 point.
All right.
Joy sounds like Be My Lover. Okay. Another question. Wow. Most people don't make it past that. They drop out. Right? Okay, here's the next one that he wants you to answer. Joy tastes
Like glittery dark chocolate.
glittery dark chocolate. Okay. He's buttoning his shirt back up. He's reaching down into his desk. He is picking up glittery chocolate, dark chocolate. He's taking a big old bite. 1 point for Prianka. You are now, you got 2 points in this game. Okay. Usually at this part, people run out of the podcast.
In it to win it, baby.
You're in it to win it.
You don't know who you're dealing with here.
Manny's scared. Manny is scared. Okay. 2 points. Next question is, Joy smells like.
Oh man, of course. Joy smells like fresh ocean water, like the beach, breeze in your face, like salty.
Manny? I can't believe this. He is opening the door of his studio room. There's an ocean on the other side. Ocean water, breeze. He's ripping his shirt back open. 3 points. How is this happening?
I don't know. Magic.
Okay. Next question. All right. The next question is this. Joy looks like.
Gosh, Joy looks like young children the first time they see a Christmas tree all lit up.
My goodness. Young children seeing a Christmas tree? Manny's showing me a part of the room. There are children. There's no Christmas tree. They're all crying. Manny gave you minus 1,000. He hates that answer. I told you. Brutal. He's crazy. Minus 1,000. You are at 900, negative 997 Brutal. Points right now. That's okay. Brutal. I told you, no one ever passes this.
That's okay. I tried.
Okay, so here's the last one. Joy, did Manny already ask you to say Joy looks like? Joy feels like.
Sand and ocean.
Sand and ocean again? He's removing his aviator glasses. A single tear is coming down. Manny loves oceans. The fact that you did it twice as an answer, very well played. 8 points from Manny. Congratulations, Prianka. You just are the first winner of this game.
Oh my goodness.
Well played, say Manny. Exactly. Golf clap. Okay, so bonus round is you're going to get a question from me. So I truly believe in people living their lives through a joy revolution, right? We're good? Okay. So I truly believe that people live their lives based on a joy revolution. And a joy revolution is 2 things. Number 1, and I'm sure you may have felt this before, when you're so full of joy that you can feel it in your heart and it runneth over, right? For me, that's part of the reason why I love living a woo life, because it happens a lot for me, right? Another type in which you are leading social change based on joy, right? So Prianka, when I ask you, what is your joy revolution? How do you answer?
It's really to help women step into their power and really be in alignment and make their dreams come true, or at least have a dream to start with and make it happen.
I love it. If you ever went to a beauty pageant, I feel like that would be a good answer too. And I have a feeling next time we get on, you will have already won one of them.
Pageant girl.
No. Can you do this for me? No. StressCleanseMD.com. that's where we get to find you, Priyanka. I have had the most fun having this conversation with you. Have felt like we've lit up. I forgot that we were on a podcast. I know you got to go, but like, thank you for this. I hope we get to connect very soon around this.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Always come back. I always come back. I feel very grateful that you are on the show. So, on behalf of Manny and Priyanka, I want you to know, for your sake, for my sake, for our sake, for goodness sake, start your revolution. Start it in love, in light, in shadow, and in joy, baby. Bye. All right, this wraps up another episode of the Joy Revolution podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And since you made it this far, go ahead and hit subscribe. Now, if you want to hear more podcasts, or if you're ready to engage with a community who will support and challenge you, if you're ready to start your own Joy Revolution, head on over to my online community, The Underground. The link is in the description. It's free to sign up. I've got a bunch of resources in there, including my own Joy Revolution course. So until next time, I'm Mark Cordone Creative. Dig deep, and I'll see you in the underground.